The world of Elemental is devastated, broken by a war of magic. Scattered across the desolation are channelers, beings capable of accessing the shards and the magic they contain. This ability has made them mighty sovereigns of the kingdoms and empires who seek to spread their dominion across the world. The world, however, will not be conquered easily. The cataclysm has awakened ancient powers who claim vast wildlands across the world. Before the channelers can conquer each other, they must first conquer the land itself.
Hey everyone, Tech here. Welcome to Tech's Tavern. Grab a brew, pull up a chair, and let's embark upon, finally, a Let's Play for Fallen Enchantress. Now, if you follow my channel, you know this is a game that I'm somewhat fond of. I really enjoy this game. This is a game I've said before that in the past year, if there's one game I feel guilty about that I haven't spent more time playing, it's Fallen Enchantress. Of course, Fallen Enchantress is a sequel to Elemental War of Magic, was somewhat ill-received first game. However, I did enjoy the first game, especially once they got some of the patches and things into it. But however, this game is just far superior and is a much, much better game. For those not familiar with the game, and we'll get into it fairly quickly, it's a game in the vein of your Age of Wonder, Disciples, King's Bounty-ish type of games, your kind of fantasy, RPG, tactical combat, city building hybrid type of game. I guess Fantasy 4X, I guess you could kind of call it to a certain degree. But this is really a great game, and one warning I want to give on this particular series here, at least for this first episode, is that early on I will kind of maybe over-explain a few things. This isn't necessarily a tutorial series at all, it's an LP series, and but I'm going to explain at least some early game concepts, pitfalls, tips of things to look out for, and explain a few minor game mechanics as we go along, just to kind of help people who maybe have not played this game because they're familiar with the original, or maybe they've gotten the game and tried it a few times but got frustrated maybe and haven't continued, because I know there is some people that have gotten frustrated with this game in some degrees because of the way they played it, and I'll explain more of that here in a second. But we will get into a new game, and I guess let me explain here off the get-go. One thing that's very different about Fallen Enchantress, if you compare it to the other games I mentioned a minute ago, and even games like, say, a Civilization, that has similar mechanics as far as, moving around a map, conquering other civilizations, building up your city, etc., etc. One thing that's, I feel, is very different about this game compared to others is not only are you versus the other NPC AIs that you're playing in any particular game, but in this game, more than others, you're versus the environment. And the environment in Fallen Enchantress, it can be very deadly. There's a lot of different mobs and elite mobs out all over the map, some of them even roaming, and you have to deal with those, and they're not pushovers. So if you try to play this game in a similar style to maybe some other games that you've played, where you expect to just start off and say, man, I'm going to build a quick army and I'm just going to bum rush across the map and just own everything really quick, and I'm just going to expand, there's a good chance you'll get your arse handed to you in this particular game. And that really depends also on which of the sovereigns you start off with. And I'll give a real brief, 5-second view of some of these guys to help people who maybe have played a little bit before. But getting back to my original point is, with this game, especially starting out, a good strategy to take is to expand with caution in this game. Start out with your main city, build up, get through your research, clear the mobs that are around you in the immediate vicinity, and spread slowly. Don't try to get in too big of a huge hurry, because you're just going to get yourself in trouble. In regards to some of these the sovereigns, they all play very differently. For instance, if you play somebody like Emperor Carvox, here. He's kind of a turtler type, if you're familiar with that term in regards to strategy games. I mean, it even has a little turtle icon with defensive here, which shows that you get bonuses defending cities. So units that sit in cities, get big defensive bonuses. So he's kind of a character that you would, sit back, get your little corner of the world, and build up, let some people come to you, crash against your walls and whatnot, and then you go out and get them. And then you have other characters like Magnar, who makes use of cheap, quick units. He's able to train slaves, and they don't cost wages, they're real cheap to manufacture, so they're kind of, if you can relate it to something like a tank rush strategy, where you just hurry up and send cheap units out there and just try to bombard people. They're not going to be very powerful, and if you get caught in a weird way, you're going to be in trouble. There's other units like Lady Arain, who has the stealth ability, which means the environment monsters won't attack you. You can basically walk right past them with your main squad with her. So if you're the kind who really, really likes to adventure the entire map and just have to play that way, where you adventure the entire map right off the get-go and wander wherever you want, then she's a good choice for a Sovereign to do that. And you have other guys like Lord Relius. Lord Relius is one, if you really like doing the in-game quests, he's very gets bonuses towards completing quests in the game. So they all play very differently. Now there's 8 default sovereigns here, and I have one sovereign that I created. And one note to be aware of is if you create custom sovereigns, be careful, because the computer can pick your custom sovereigns to play with against you. So if you make something that's deadly, I mean, I don't know, if you find some crazy combination that's very annoying or something, you may end up having to play against it if you don't play it in a particular game. In this particular game, I'm going to play as Warlord Verga. Warlord Verga is kind of a he's one of the Fallen. There's 2 races to the elemental lore, the Fallen and Man and Fallen. And Fallen are kind of an offshoot of Man, more evil side of them. So we're going to play with him. He's mostly melee focused. In fact, you can't even train, like, say, archer units. So, and I'll go through his things here real quick. He's got Trog Blood, which gives him 20 weight capacity. That helps in regards to wearing armor and not hitting your initiative, which we'll go over that stuff later. Death Apprentice, he has a couple kind of debuffs there. You have Oppression to reduce unrest in your cities. Earth Apprentice gives you a couple other strategic buffs, like used for cities, and defensive buffs, things like that. Hardy gets hit point bonuses every level, and then poison resist, which is good if you're fighting spiders and things like that. And then the best thing is we can train Juggernauts, which will be quite fun, and the hilarity will ensue, I'm sure, when we get to that point. We also get Warriors, which allows us to start a little quicker on some of our warfare training. Also, our warriors get +1 level for trained units, which is good. Tough, they all get 10% more health. So you're kind of getting the idea here, is we're, no ranged weapons. However, champions can use ranged weapons. So if I find a champion who's magic based, which would be preferable at the beginning, they can sit back and use ranged weapons. But as far as your normal troops, they can only be melee. And then you get a couple of unique axe equipments, but I believe you got to train towards those anyway. So we will go with that. Oh, let's go back. And most of my settings here, I'm going to keep them how they are. We're going to go with a small world size, just to keep this LP a little more under control so that we can get to a foreseeable conclusion. And we'll keep everything else pretty much balanced. The world difficulty we'll leave on normal. This controls the difficulty of the AI on the map, like the world monsters and things like that. Yeah, we'll leave all that like that. Now, I'm almost tempted to go with 2 opponents, but I'm going to leave it on 3. The reason I would say 2 is because on a small map it could get kind of crowded pretty quick. So that's going to make me be more particular about my starting location. If I don't like my starting location, I'll keep reloading until I get a decent one. So, just a warning ahead of time. And then we'll go with normal intelligence on the AI. They get no bonuses, but they're not using their best algorithms, which is probably good for me. Alright, so we'll go ahead and go with that. And see how it goes. Make sure to build improvements on wild resources near your cities to reap their benefits. Can I build a dragon next to my city? That's what the picture's showing me. Alright.
Many things are said of you, that your own mother called you monster, and cast you out from your home.
That's kind of mean.
That you were raised by wargs in the Aesop, and rose to command the pack. Some of those things are true. None of them matter. To you, words are wind. Pretty speeches win no wars. Strength does. Strength of arms. Strength of magic. Strength of will. At the age of 15, you crossed Karazhan's fist in search of the Trog who murdered your brother. For 19 days, you marched across the desert sands until you found the killer and his companions. Most you killed with your knife or their own weapons. The murderer you ripped apart with your bare hands.
Dang.
The rest follow you now, as all others will soon. None can withstand your power. Those who will not yield will die. Those who survive will serve.
Man. That's just a great slogan to use in general life situations. You know, those who will not yield will die. Those who survive will serve. I mean, you could just use that daily, just about in everything you do. So just keep that in mind. Alright, let's take a look at this first setup. And again, like I said, I'm going to be a little picky on this because I don't want to get started in a bad location. So let me look through some of these. Iron ore, gold deposit. It's this guy. He looks like a melee. Darius. I don't think I've ever gotten him before. Clay pit. And let me just move over here to see if I can get a look at any more. No. No, we're gonna reload this one. I didn't like that. There just wasn't any. I mean, I want at least like at a minimum a 3-4-1, and there was like a 3-3-1. So there wasn't even anything. It was 4-3-2. What kind of plant is that? Wow, this one's kind of sucky too. Looks like some kind of melee type one again. There's a 2-4, but that's going to limit the growth too much. Looks like I'm in the bottom left corner. 4-3-2 is... No, let's try one more. Alrighty, welcome back. After several loads, I'm sure I did an edit there. I finally found one. And I don't even really like this one very much, but I'm gonna go with it because I'm tired of reloading like 6 times. I'm gonna go with this one here. It's a 4-3-2. That's not great. It is next to a crystal crag though, and an air shard, which the air shard doesn't really do me any good right this second. The crystal crag though produces crystal, which is good for later on. Crystal you use to craft certain like amulets and magic weapons and things like that later on. So it's pretty good to have it if you're able to. So we will go ahead and get started here. I'm going to actually build right there. An empire is formed. You watch as your flag, the flag of Yithro, flutters in the wind high above the simple huts of Ahilga. It is a beginning, this place. a new capital of the Empire of Ythril. But you turn away all congratulations. You will be satisfied only when the flag of Ythril flies over all lands, east and west alike, when the sight of it and the sound of your name causes both men and fallen to tremble in fear. Excellent. Alright, so a couple things to get going here. And I don't really like the location either, because we're kind of like in the middle of the map. I'd like to be more towards a corner, but we'll deal with that too. One of the first things I need to do is, if I can, get my guy kind of over here. And let's take a look at this dude. Nochid Knock HD Nightbringer. He's a wraith. Alrighty then. Yeah. That's cool. Get money out of him, I guess. So he's kind of a, I want to say he's kind of a roguey kind of a guy. I guess that's what he's supposed to be. 110? Good lord. Don't have much choice though. We kind of need him in the beginning. Alright, we need to do a couple of different things here when you first start out. We need to pick a construction project, which I'm going to go ahead and do the Crystal Crag first. Just so that can go ahead and get going and start producing. Next, we need to put a couple of our city enchants on. We have 2 slots on this city. So we will take a look here. We don't have a lot of choices, unfortunately, because the champion we got there didn't bring anything new to the agenda. So I think we'll add enchanted hammers, obviously, as one. And I'm going to use oppression, I think, to lower the unrest. Because if by lowering unrest, which I know my unrest is probably somewhere around like 22% or something like that right now, if I had to guess, I think that's what it always is, typically. Yeah, 22%. That's going to lower our production and things like that. You know, see, like we're getting a -7 to our production because of the unrest, and also a 0.2. So, and I don't really need the mana because I'm not going to be really casting a lot of stuff right now, and we're gaining 2 per anyway. So, I think we will cast oppression upon the city. Get some. Okay, so that should have helped a little bit there. All right, and then we need to. We can move over here and pick up those. We need to go around and pick up some of these. We gotta do our research too. Now, on research, one tip I will give is 99 times out of 100, I always start in civilization. The only small exception every once in a while would be maybe starting into warfare if you want to get a quick jump, like on somebody that's really close by or something. But normally, no. You want to kind of go in and hit civics and knowledge early, maybe then also into administration and trading. Part of that is for the faction prestige, which faction prestige generally helps with your growth of your cities. It's kind of a multiplier that controls growth divided by the number of cities you have. And then you also want to get stuff like this, like the study that you can build. These are all the blue ones are like blueprints of buildings you can build. And the study gives you research, so we can research through these trees faster. Civics gives you some good buildings as well for growth and things like that, but the main thing is it gives you the rush production, so that if you want to pay for things to get finished, if you're able to build some money up, you can pay to get things finished. And of course, both of these have the faction prestige. Administration also has more of that, as well as some more growth and stuff. And then the trading is a lot of like money-based type things to kind of get your guild or going, as well as roads here, which helps with travel and whatnot. So anyway, I'm going to start with civics first. And go over here. Let's see what kind of fatty loots we got. Okay, a big old mace, which that's probably better than the weapon I have right now. It hits harder, I know. I think the weapon I start with is a 9, so we'll go with that. Then we'll go over here and we'll get this one. Okay, what do we got here? Ooh, an escape scroll. That's somewhat useful. Allows the unit to cast escape, which allows your army to escape from tactical combat to your capital. So if we get in a fight that's looking really crappy, we can hop, skip, and a jump back to town. Let's kind of go down this way just so we can get a quick glimpse out here.